Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to look at something I know so many of you struggle with, and that is rest. Why is it so hard? I found it incredibly hard to rest. It was something I really had to learn to do. It didn't feel like it came naturally at all. So, why do we feel guilty when we rest? Like we're being lazy or unproductive or even a bad person? Where do these beliefs come from? And most importantly, can you actually fully recover without real rest? I mean, I can give you a spoiler here because no, you can't. I know that stopping exercise is something that so many of us have had to do or need to do in recovery. But stopping exercise doesn't mean you're actually resting. So we're also going to talk about what happens when you stop movement, but you keep yourself constantly busy, and why true recovery means slowing down, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. So, grab a snack, get cozy, and let's get into it. First of all, let's start with the big question. Why does rest feel so difficult? Why does the idea of simply being instead of constantly doing trigger so much discomfort? I mean, after all, we are human beings, not human doings. For so many of us, productivity has been tied to our worth since childhood. I mean, as a child, there was even a program, I think it was called Why Don't You? And it even said, why don't you just switch off your television set and get up and do something less boring instead? And it's like, turn it off, it's no good for me, and all this sort of thing. So it's not just about having a busy schedule. It's about who we believe we are when we slow down. Think back to your childhood. Did you grow up in a family where achievement was everything? Maybe slowing down meant you were lazy or wasting time. Perhaps you were the hard-working one, the one who always went over and above and beyond, the one who never stopped. Maybe you got praise and validation when you were accomplishing things, whether it was in school, sports, work, or even how much you exercised. And at some point, you internalized the belief that being still, resting, or not actively achieving made you less than. But this also goes even deeper than family influences. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness. The toxic influence of hustle culture and diet culture. It's not just those personal experiences that shape our relationship with rest. Our entire society reinforces the message that stopping is unacceptable. Hustle culture. We are constantly fed the idea that success is about grinding and hustling and pushing through exhaustion. Rest is seen as indulgent or lazy, rather than an essential part of well-being. Sleep when you're dead, no pain, no gain, are just a couple of the phrases that reinforce this mindset. And the same damaging beliefs show up in diet culture. We're told we must earn our food, burn off calories, and constantly justify what we consume. And this ties into rest because stillness is framed as something that leads to weight gain or a lack of discipline, which makes it even more anxiety-inducing. These messages make it nearly impossible to rest without guilt. Even when we logically know that our bodies need it, there's this emotional barrier that whispers to us, you're being lazy, you should do something. And for those in recovery from an eating disorder, resting is even more difficult because movement has often become part of your identity. Maybe you were the fit one, the disciplined one, or the health conscious one. I was actually all three. Maybe the eating disorder made you feel in control, and movement is a way to reinforce that. Maybe staying busy is how you numb emotions, distract yourself from hunger, or avoid thoughts you don't want to face. So when you stop, it can feel like you're losing a part of yourself. Who are you if you're not constantly moving, working, achieving? And that identity crisis can be really tough. But you are so much more than what you do. Your worth is not defined by how productive, how busy you are, how much you exercise. Your value is inherent just because you exist. Breaking free from these beliefs takes time. You've been conditioned to equate rest with laziness or being unproductive. But in reality, rest is actually essential for healing. So next time you feel uncomfortable with resting, ask yourself, where did I learn that rest was bad? I mean, for me, I guess I remember my dad saying, like praising people, going, oh, he's a grafter, or being busy is, I can't even remember, honestly. There was so many little comments. Another question I want you to ask yourself is, who benefits from me believing I have to constantly push myself? Would I say the same things to a friend who needed rest? You're not lazy for needing rest. You're not weak for slowing down. You're healing. And that is actually incredibly productive and the most valuable thing you can do. One of the hardest parts about resting is the guilt that comes with it. That little voice in your head that whispers, well, actually generally shouts, I should be doing something useful. I haven't done enough to deserve this. Other people are working harder than me. And a classic one I used a lot. If I stop, everything will fall apart. No one else is going to do it. Does this sound familiar? This internal dialogue isn't just random. It comes from those deeply ingrained beliefs that tell us our value is tied to our output, that who we are is defined by what we do, how much we achieve, and how productive we are. But again, where did the beliefs come from? Because guilt around rest is learned behavior. If you grew up in an environment where busyness was praised and stillness was seen as laziness, it makes perfect sense that slowing down feels wrong. If you were rewarded for being hard-working as a child, but rarely praised for just existing or being yourself, or your parents or teachers encouraged non-stop activity, telling you if you work hard you'll succeed. I mean, who didn't get told that? Or maybe you actually saw the adults in your life pushing through exhaustion, never taking breaks, and you internalized the idea that this is just how life works. And then we add diet culture into the mix, the messaging that tells us you need to earn your food, you need to burn off what you eat, you should feel guilty if you're not exercising or being active. We get you must do this many steps per day. Being sedentary is the new cancer, and all this sort of thing. Sitting down is worse for you than smoking, and all the things that come out in society. And then suddenly rest feels not just uncomfortable, it becomes morally wrong. So it's no wonder we feel like we're failing if we allow ourselves to slow down. The truth, though, is that your worth is not measured by your productivity. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to be constantly useful to justify your existence. Let's think about this logically. Every living creature on this planet rests. I mean, right now, even just this moment, on the sofa right next to me is my little dog. And she's fast asleep. She's resting. And in the living room is my other dog. And she's fast asleep and resting. Animals don't feel guilty for sleeping or lying in the sun. Babies don't feel ashamed for taking naps. In fact, we actively encourage them to. Your body was designed for cycles of activity and rest. Yet, somewhere along the way, we were taught to override this. We started believing that resting meant we were lazy, unmotivated, or unworthy. And I want to challenge that belief right now. Rest is not laziness, it's a biological need. You are not lazy for needing to rest. You are human. Your body needs downtime to repair muscle tissue, balance hormones, regulate metabolism. Your mind needs space to process emotions, form memories, reduce stress. Your nervous system needs breaks to move out of the fight or flight mode and into a state of rest and repair. Did you know that prolonged stress and overwork can actually shrink your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's responsible for rational thinking and decision making? Chronic busyness and exhaustion don't just make you tired, they literally change how your brain functions. And when you're in recovery, your body is doing an enormous amount of healing. Your metabolism is adjusting, your digestive system is working overtime, your hormones are rebalancing, and your brain is rewiring itself to let go of old fears and restrictive thoughts. That healing requires energy, and that means that rest is not optional, it's essential. Many people in recovery worry that if they slow down, they'll fall behind. Everyone else is working, achieving, progressing. If I stop, I'll never catch up. I don't deserve to rest because I haven't done enough. If I don't stay busy, my life will spiral out of control. But let's flip this around. What if constantly pushing yourself is actually what's holding you back? When you never allow yourself to pause, you're not actually moving forwards. You're just spinning your wheels. It's like you're on a treadmill. You're not going anywhere. Burnout doesn't lead to progress. It leads to exhaustion, frustration, and eventual collapse. Taking intentional rest doesn't make you fall behind. It makes you more resilient, more creative, and more capable. Think about it. When do your best ideas come? Usually when you're not forcing them. I weirdly tend to have the best ideas when I'm having a bath. Other people when they're taking a shower, lying in bed, on a gentle walk. When do your muscles grow and repair? That's during rest, not during activity. When does your digestion function best? When your body is relaxed, not when it's stressed and tense. You cannot function at your best without rest. Oh, I'm a poet. And in recovery, this is even more important. If you don't allow yourself to truly rest, physically, mentally, and emotionally, your body will never fully trust that it's safe. And without that sense of safety, full recovery will remain out of reach. So what can you do when that voice in your head starts screaming at you that resting is lazy? First of all, I want you to pause for a minute and question it. Where did you learn this belief? Is it actually true? Would you say it to someone you love? And then I want you to reframe it. Instead of thinking, I should be doing something productive, tell yourself that rest is productive because your body is healing. You don't have to earn rest. Just say, I deserve rest because I exist. And allowing myself to slow down is an act of self-care. And if doing nothing feels terrifying, start small. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and allow yourself to rest, guilt-free. And when I say guilt-free, the thoughts are probably going to be there, but just allow them without judgment. Just notice them, recognize that they are thoughts from your old conditioning, and let them go. Lie down without distractions and focus on your breath. Give yourself permission to enjoy this one so-called unproductive moment, this moment of rest, without trying to justify it. You don't need to earn it. Remind yourself that healing takes energy. If your body is screaming for you to rest, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're healing. And the best thing you can do is listen. So I just want to really say this again, okay? Rest is not a reward for working hard. Rest is not something you have to earn. It is a fundamental human need, and in recovery, it's non-negotiable. Would you expect anyone else to push through exhaustion? And if not, then why are you holding yourself to this impossible standard? You deserve to rest, you deserve to heal, and you deserve to just be. That is enough. I also want to talk here about the flee from famine response and why you feel like you just can't stop moving. The idea of resting can make you feel agitated, restless, and actually even panicked. And this is actually where biology comes in. When your body has been starved, whether from restriction, over-exercise, or both, it enters the survival mode known as flee from famine response. And here's what happens. Your body perceives a lack of energy as a threat to survival. So it releases stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to keep you alert and moving. And this triggers restlessness, anxiety, and an overwhelming urge to keep going. In evolutionary terms, this makes sense. If food was scarce, our ancestors needed to move to search for food, to migrate to more abundant areas. So the body doesn't want you to sit still and conserve energy. It wants you to get up and find food. So it's really interesting because sometimes what we perceive as anxiety or restlessness is actually a hunger signal. That jittery, unsettled feeling, the urge to do something, that might not be an emotional state. It might be your body begging for fuel. So next time you feel that real itch to move, ask yourself, am I actually just hungry? Because restlessness isn't a sign you need to push harder. It's a sign that your body is still trying to find safety. And safety comes from consistent nourishment and deep rest. So, back to what I said at the beginning, can you recover without rest? To be really clear, you cannot fully recover if you don't fully rest. It's tempting to believe if you just stop exercising but keep busy in other ways, working, studying, cleaning, doing, constantly filling your time, you'll still recover. But that's not how it works. Because recovery isn't just about stopping exercise and eating more food. It's about shifting from a constant state of doing into a state of being. Most people with eating disorders are deeply entrenched in a doing mindset. That constant pressure to be productive, to prove your worth, to feel like every second must be filled with something. If you stop exercising but replace it with compulsive cleaning, you're still in the doing mindset. If you eat more food but spend every waking moment working or studying to compensate, you are still in the doing mindset. If you fill every quiet moment with scrolling social media, planning, or another form of distraction, you are still in the doing mindset. And the problem is your body cannot heal in a state of constant stress. Recovery is about trust, restoration, and repair. But if you never give yourself permission to rest, your body and brain will remain in survival mode. When you're constantly busy, whether that's through work, movement, or mental stimulation, your nervous system remains in this heightened state of alertness. This keeps you in sympathetic dominance, otherwise known as the fight or flight mode. And in this fight or flight mode, your heart rate stays elevated, your body thinks it's under threat, even if that threat is just your to-do list. Your digestive system slows down, because your body is prioritizing survival over digestion, which can lead to bloating, discomfort, and really messed up hunger cues. Your cortisol levels stay high. Chronic stress means chronically high cortisol, which disrupts your metabolism, sleep, and your hunger and fullness cues. Your body stays tense. Your muscles don't fully relax, keeping you in this state of constant readiness. If your body still perceives stress, whether from overworking, overthinking, overstimulation, it will not trust that it's safe enough to heal. And let's not forget about your brain. Eating disorders thrive on control, rigidity, and avoidance of discomfort. And when you keep yourself endlessly busy, you're not allowing your brain the space it needs to actually process emotions and rewire new beliefs. If you never slow down, you never sit with your thoughts. You never allow discomfort to arise and then pass naturally. You never give your nervous system the chance to regulate. This is why so many people in recovery struggle with intense anxiety when they stop exercising, because they haven't actually really stopped. They've just replaced one form of distraction with another. Rest is the missing piece in full recovery. It's not just something that feels nice, it's necessary for full recovery. Your metabolism needs to rest to repair after the years of restriction. Your digestion needs to rest to be able to learn to function properly again. Your mind needs to rest to let go of the constant fight or flight response. If you're always in motion, physically or mentally, your body will continue to believe that food is scarce, danger is present, and it needs to stay on high alert. So if you never let yourself fully rest without guilt, without distraction, you stay in that kind of quasi-recovery, limbo recovery. You might feel like you're doing all the right things, but your body knows the truth. It's time to shift from doing to being. So let's look at how you can start letting yourself rest. For me, for most of my clients, the idea of full rest feels overwhelming. And if it's like that for you, you're not alone. I had to practice resting. Honestly, it really was a challenge. And for most people in recovery, rest doesn't feel safe at first. It can trigger anxiety, discomfort, and sometimes a sense of losing control. But just like every other part of recovery, it is something you can practice. Your body has been stuck in fight or flight mode for so long that slowing down might feel unnatural and actually even threatening. Your brain has been wired to believe that movement equals safety, busyness equals control, stopping equals failure. But this is simply not true. And the only way to teach your brain a new truth is through consistent exposure to rest. So let's break it down into small steps that will help you begin to let go of that fear and trust that rest is necessary and it's okay. So if the idea of full rest is too much, start with bite-sized moments of stillness. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes where you do nothing. No phone, no TV, no background distractions. Just sit and breathe and exist. If sitting feels uncomfortable, lie down. You can place a hand on your stomach and just notice your breath moving in and out. If total stillness feels impossible, try a slow mindful activity, like watching the leaves in the trees moving outside, or just running your hands under warm water. These small moments start training your nervous system to get used to not doing. And over time, your body will begin to understand that stillness doesn't equal danger. Notice when you're filling the gaps. Let's start recognizing all the ways you keep yourself constantly occupied. And literally, so many people do this. Do you pick up your phone when there's a pause in the day, start scrolling, quickly check Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and all the others? Do you feel an urge to clean, reorganize, or do just one more thing before you sit down? Do you schedule your day and pack it full of work, errands, and commitments to avoid quiet moments? If so, start pausing before you react. When you catch yourself automatically filling the silence with busyness, stop and ask, is this actually necessary right now? I mean, if you even go to the supermarket, you'll see that if there's a queue, people get their phones out and start scrolling because they just struggle to even stand in a queue. We've just been taught that it's uncomfortable. And do you avoid stillness because it feels uncomfortable? What would happen if you just sat with that discomfort instead of running from it? You don't have to change all your habits all at once, but start noticing when you're avoiding rest. Awareness is the first step. Perhaps if sitting in stillness feels totally unbearable, try easing into rest through low energy activities that still allow your body to slow down. Lie down with your eyes closed and listen to some calming music. Sit outside in nature, watch the world move around you. Take just a really slow and aimless walk. Not for steps, not for fitness, just for the experience. And just notice what's around you. These activities, although they're not full rest, they help bridge the gap between the constant motion and full rest, which makes the transition feel more manageable. One of the biggest barriers to rest is the guilt that comes with it. That little voice that says you haven't done enough to deserve this. Other people are working harder than you. You're being lazy. Remember, this is not your voice. It's the voice of conditioning, past experiences, diet culture, hustle culture, and fear. Just because you hear it doesn't mean you have to listen to it. So when the guilt pops up, challenge it. Who told me this? Is it really true? Because rest is not a reward for productivity. It's not something you have to justify. It's a basic human need. For many people, stillness is scary because it brings up emotions they've avoided through busyness. When you slow down, thoughts and feelings that have been buried under distraction might start to surface, and that can feel uncomfortable. But avoiding emotions doesn't make them go away. It just pushes them in deeper, where they continue to affect you in ways you might not even realize. Learning to sit with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, is part of healing. You could try some guided meditations to help your mind focus on something other than racing thoughts. Deep breathing exercises, to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and create a sense of calm. And journaling is fantastic to help you explore what thoughts come up when you try to rest. And even though it might feel unbearable to begin with to be still, with practice, you'll realize you can handle that discomfort and nothing bad happens when you stop doing. So let's just recap. To learn to rest, you have to first recognize that rest is productive. Your body is not idle when you rest. It's actively repairing, restoring, and healing. Your nervous system is regulating itself. Your digestive system works at its best. Your metabolism is recalibrating. Your brain is rewiring. Rest is not wasted time, it's essential time. Number 2, you need to challenge the guilt again and again. It doesn't just disappear, it will keep coming up. Every time it does, you have a choice of to listen to it and fall back into old patterns, or challenge it and remind yourself that rest is necessary. And the more you challenge it, the weaker it becomes. Practice resting in small steps. If doing nothing feels impossible, then break it down. Start even with 1 minute of stillness, build it up. See if you can just lie down for 5 minutes without checking your phone. Delay your instincts to be productive by just sitting for extra moments before acting. And over time, your body will learn that rest is not dangerous. And notice how you feel when you rest. Pay attention to what happens when you give yourself permission to rest. Do you feel more at ease, less exhausted, more present in your body? Most of the time we fear rest because we think it will make us feel worse. But when we actually let ourselves experience it, we realize that rest feels good. And you need to reframe what rest means. It's not weakness, laziness, or failure. Rest is fuel. Rest is survival. Rest is the foundation of recovery. You don't need to earn it, justify it, do anything to deserve it. All you need to do is allow it. If you take one thing from this, please let it be that rest is not optional in recovery. You cannot fully heal if you never let yourself slow down. You cannot build trust with your body if you never listen to its need for rest. You cannot break free from the eating disorder mindset if you replace exercise with constant busyness. But you can learn to rest, step by step, moment by moment. And in doing so, you will finally give your body the trust and healing it has always deserved. Rest is only hard because we've been conditioned to believe it's wrong, but it's not. It's necessary, it's healing, and it's one of the most radical acts of self-care and self-trust you can give yourself. And if you're struggling with rest, you're not alone. But your recovery, your body, your mind, and your entire future self need you to slow down. It's not just about stopping exercise, it's stopping the constant doing. So today, I invite you to find one small way to rest and just notice what happens. You are safe, you are worthy, and you deserve to take up space even when you're doing absolutely nothing. And I'm sending you all so much love, and I'll see you next time.